more than $150 million. And that's what the Palestinian Authority paid to families of terrorists just in 2020. The pay-to-slay policy is still in force, using our tax dollars to fund terror campaigns.
In 2018, Congress passed a law cutting off certain economic aid to the Palestinians to stop the practice. Now, more legislation is needed to finish the task. CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Matt Galka reports.
Lawmakers on Capitol Hill are hoping to move quickly and expand the Taylor Force Act and finally put an end to the payments and rewards that are being given out to the families of terrorists.
Not a day goes by when Stuart Force does not think about his son Taylor, taken from the world 6 years ago.
Probably more like an hour goes by that we don't miss Taylor, there will always be an emptiness.
Taylor Force was a U.S. Army veteran murdered by a Palestinian terrorist in Israel in 2016. His family made it their mission to end the Palestinian Authority's so-called pay-for-slay policy, where the PA pays stipends to the families of the terrorists who commit the crimes.
It's sad to say, but the same countries that are hell-bent on destroying the United States, on destroying Israel, have no problem using U.S. dollars to fund their terror campaigns.
In 2018, the Taylor Force Act was signed into law attempting to curb the payments, but hundreds of millions of dollars are still being paid out. Force's family hopes a new bill, the Taylor Force Martyr Prevention Act, will help complete their mission of ending the payments. The bill targets banks in the Middle East, and Congressman Doug Lamborn is sponsoring it in the House.
The Palestinian Authority has made it really clear that their intention is to keep these payments going. And so what we're trying to do is go at the financial institutions that prop up the Palestinian Authority and try to take away their ability to make this happen. We'd take away their ability to have correspondent accounts in the United States.
Our approach from the original Taylor Force Act was to keep the United States taxpayer from sending money to the Palestinians. And they use that to fund their terrorist program. So it bothers me, and we will do anything we can to stop them from doing it.
The bill has already been introduced in the Senate, and it does have a Democratic co-sponsor in the House. Congressman Lamborn says he wants to get the bill passed before potential new members of Congress are seated in January. Matt Gelka, CBN News.
Well, it's great to see Congress taking the lead in this, and I encourage you to call your senators, call your House of Representatives, your member of Congress, and tell them how much you support this, that you want our tax dollars to not fund terrorists anymore. In the Palestinian Authority, they're called martyrs, the shaheed. They're honored. They put up statues to them. They name streets after them. They name soccer teams after them. They put them on pedestals and then reward their families financially. And they're using our tax dollars to do it. And that was the whole intent of the Taylor Force Act. Let's stop that. Under the Trump administration, they went even further. They said, we're going to shut down our consulate to you. We're going to turn that into an embassy to Israel and recognize Jerusalem as the undivided capital of Israel. They stopped the payments to UNRWA. The UN was helping fund incitement and training its incitement in the schools in the Palestinian Authority. And then after all of that, the PA doubled down and said, we're not ever going to stop these payments. And then to underline that, they no longer issue their budget. So we don't know how much went in 2021. They are shutting down access to any foreign observers to how they spend their money. And so in response, should we try to open up a new consulate to them? Well, that's exactly what the Biden administration has done, the State Department has done. They attempted to do that, but forgot about international law, that they needed Israel's permission to do that. And so that didn't take off. That was a real stumble in the first year of the administration. But here's another bigger stumble. and that is restarting negotiations with Iran to try to get that nuclear deal done. But there's more good news. Senator Bob Menendez from New Jersey is the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He's saying, well, if we can't get guidance from the administration on how to deal with Iran, I'm going to start drafting legislation that will put this and put it into law how to deal with Iran.